right. We will commence the May 13th meeting of the Improvement and Service Committee, and we'll note that all members are present. Alder Gillick, Alder Burnett, Alder Scannell, and Alder Weary. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Gillick to approve the agenda. Any changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. D, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
To approve by Scannell, second by Gillick. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular business. Number 1. Nice big long one. Should have Barb read it. No, I'll read it.
I can read it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's my job. That's where I get the big bucks, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Consideration with possible action on request by Alder Darf due to great concern regarding the possibility/probability of extensive flooding to the homes and roads on the south shore of the Bay of Green Bay due to the current height of the bay, to provide for a full report on the progress that has been made on obtaining funding to fix the dike on the south shore of the Bay of Green Bay, a timeline on when work on the dike will begin, and how we can finance this work, even if we are not able to obtain state and federal grants. This is referred from the April 8th meeting. Alder Darf, do you want to first, or do you want director? It's your item,
I'd like to go first, if I may. Because I do want to mention that I worked with Alder Lefebvre on this. She and I both have constituents in that area. We both are equally concerned. I first wanted to say thank you to Director Grenier and to Matt Heckenleibel. The memo was excellent. The history you gave was so succinct, and all of the interrelated parts of what's going on, and your different, when one option wasn't going to work, you looked at a different option and a different option. And I just appreciate the amount of work that must have gone into all the research that you guys did. And I know that part of my communication talks about funding, which I was reminded of last night as we went through the Finance Committee. And I'm certain that will be also a portion of this discussion tonight. But I'm hoping that Matt, you, Director Grenier, can really touch on the parts of the memo because everyone may not have been able to read that memo. And I think it's really important for people to see how hard you guys have been working to figure out a solution for this dike. Thank you.
Director?
Okay, I'm just going to start off with a brief introduction here and then turn it over to Matt so he can go through the memo and brief everybody on what we've been doing, how we got to the point we're at. The dike was constructed in 1973 following a 1972 flood on the Bay of Green Bay. Constructed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, one of the biggest misconceptions that we have in the community is what the function of that dike is. It's not a true flood control. And by that, what I mean, that dike is not intended to be watertight. It is a wave run-up or energy dissipation device. And that's not conjecture on behalf of the city staff. We've actually received verification from the Department of Natural Resources on that. The intent of that dike was to stop the wave action from progressing up onto dry land and adversely impacting those structures. So I think part of what we're dealing with are expectations from the public that the dike was not intended to address, okay? Original design on that dike, when it was first proposed, included a clay core that was overlain by heavy riprap and concrete. That's not what was built. What was built, the clay core itself was never constructed. It's simply heavy rock and concrete that's intended to break that wave energy and stop those waves from running up on the shore. That's why, after the last couple of events, every time that I've been asked by the media about failure of the dike, I've been quick to point out the dike has not failed. The dike has performed exactly for what it was intended and what it was built for. And that is to break that wave energy. Now, there has been waves that have overtopped that dike, but those waves have not propagated and continued up the shoreline where they've hit the houses and caused substantial damage. So again, the dike is performing for what it was intended. We need to make sure that as we consider things and potential actions that may involve the dike, that we keep it in the context of what the dike was intended for. So I just wanted to put that quick preface out there. And then I'm going to turn it over to Matt Heckenleibel, who's the utilities manager for the city of Green Bay. That utility division is the entity that's responsible within the Department of Public Works for working on the dike.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Alder Darf, for that introduction as well. As you noted, we did prepare a memo pertaining to the dike with a history that goes back to pre-1972. The primary function after the 1972 flood was for the city and the Army Corps to take emergency action to create this dike, this wave run-up energy dissipation structure, which has a secondary function to hold back water in calm weather. One of the key elements when this was developed was that the city had to go out and obtain a significant amount of easements from each of the property owners so that the dike could be constructed by the Army Corps and ultimately to be inspected and maintained as necessary by the city of Green Bay once the Army Corps constructed it in '73. There was approximately 184 easements that needed to be obtained, and that was done in a timely manner in about a 6-month time period. What that does, it gives the right to the city to access this property and prevents any type of private improvements from being constructed that may hinder future activities for maintenance and inspection. Pre-December 1 last year, 2019, the city had done some recent inspections in 2018 and early or mid-spring of 2019. And the plan moving forward there was to do some spot reinforcement of the dike, primarily where some of the armament has been displaced throughout the whole entire structure. That was our game plan as of September of last year, and that was the intent going into the construction season for December 1 came about where we had significantly high Great Lakes water levels, i.e. bay level, and then had substantially sustained northeast winds, which blew waves greater than the height of the dike over the dike and caused some localized flooding in and around, especially the East Shore Circle neighborhood near Bay Beach. And that's when we started looking at other alternatives, which included the possibility of raising the dike throughout various means and methods, from adding additional stone. One of the alternatives was to look at whether or not we could utilize sheet piling on edge to reinforce the dike, both at the existing level and or raising it. In a meeting that was held with the neighborhood association then in January, it was brought to my attention that a lot of the construction of the dike may not have been as proposed in the original documents. provided to the Army Corps and to the DNR back in 1972 and 73. It, as Director Grenier stated, having a clay core as the center mass of the dike. What was reported to myself was that the clay core was actually constructed with rubble, riprap, excess concrete, so non-clay type materials. And as such, we would not be able to drive sheet piling through that rubble. So that negated using that sheet pile option. Through middle of February, we were still looking at alternatives. In the middle of March, the DNR contacted ourselves to inform us that they had come up with a emergency action due to the Great Lakes water levels and the concern of significant erosion going on the Great Lakes and the Bay of Green Bay. And they created a program called the Great Lakes Emergency Erosion Control Self-Certification Program. What that does is allows individual property owners to take emergency type actions to place heavy riprap or riprap stone or clean concrete with no metal, no paint along the shoreline at a 2-foot horizontal to 1-foot vertical slope on top of some filter fabric, not to exceed the top of the existing, in this case, dike or land structure, to help reinforce to prevent any additional erosion. We have been in contact with the DNR numerous times between March and as of early this week regarding this process. Ultimately, the work can be done utilizing this process, but there's a lot of challenges that still need to be overcome. Primarily that the city does not own the property, therefore the city cannot sign these self-certification forms on behalf of the property owners. So ultimately we need to obtain approximately 160 signatures throughout the whole entire process on this self-certification form. Then one of the additional requirements is once the work has been completed, ultimately the Great Lakes individual permit needs to be obtained through the Department of Natural Resources. On a normal project, normal process, you would have to get the permits first. And right now the DNR is stating that this could be upwards to a 145-day process. So the self-certification process will allow us to do the work and then follow up with the applications and permitting process after the fact. The challenge there is the erosion control application or the individual application can only be applied for online and needs to be signed by the property owner online. You need a special account to work with the DNR. So we will actually be looking at creating a designation of signature authorization form that allows the property owners to give the city representative the authorization to sign and obtain the individual permits on their behalf. So we have begun creating these self-certification or filling out these application forms. We have begun filling out the individual Chapter 30 permit forms. We have not come up with a designated signature authorization form, and we are working diligently to try and come up with a biddable contract, which we think we can have out to the public as soon as next week. From the time we advertise to the time shovel ready out in the field, we're looking at about a 60-day process. So if we say we can have the project out the door, advertised as soon as next week, we'd anticipate shovel moving dirt, removing trees to gain access in and about the first week of July. Now that raises the question of, we can bid it, we can start getting authorization. However, one of the larger hurdles that Alder Darf made mention to is we have no funding. We have taken some looks at funding from the federal side, funding from the state side. Most of that is available at only certain times of the year and for specific projects. It doesn't necessarily relate to these type of projects. So when we started this whole process late last fall in developing our capital improvement program, we set aside funds to at least start the process in reinforcing the dike. And in last night's finance committee meeting, that took a little bit of a hiccup, is my understanding. So that is kind of a brief summary of my memo. And I'll turn it back to Director Grenier.
Thanks, Matt. As Matt indicated, we do have some, there's a couple of things from last night that play into this. At the Personnel Committee, there was discussion relative to the Resiliency Coordinator that was proposed for this year to be hired. One of the anticipated functions of that Resiliency Coordinator was to be a resource to seek out and obtain funding sources for resilient activities. And again, difference between resiliency and sustainability. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back after a man-made or natural disaster like a flood. So when the mayor first talked to us about having a resiliency coordinator, flooding issues and seeking out funding for mitigation, recovery, and prevention, that was part of what we envisioned that resiliency coordinator to be taking up. And obviously we've not hired that individual yet. One of the other things that Matt alluded to, Alder Darf alluded to, is there is $2.5 million set aside, identified within the capital improvement program that was adopted by the Common Council for the Department of Public Works for activities related to this dike. However, that bonding request has not been adopted yet. We have done a lot of work, but we are very quick going to be getting to a point where we're also going to have to commit funds. Matt indicated that we could have a contract ready as early as next week to start getting in front of prospective bidders, but we can't put that out for bid until we have a commitment for funding the project. So I don't want to be alarmist, but we have gone a pretty significant distance already. That next step of actually putting a contract on the street and getting a contractor selected cannot happen until we have a bonding, the storm sewer supported bonding approved by the council. Alder Darf, I see your.
Yeah, go ahead, Alder.
I'll let the chair call on me.
Alder Darf, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, and I understand that. And as a result, I have already put out a communication to the mayor about the possibility of emergency finance and council meetings, having an additional one in June. I don't know. I mean, I know we can't get this done by next Tuesday. which is the last meeting we've got in May. I would like to get this done by June 3rd, because that's the first meeting we have in June. And in order to do that, we're going to have to add on, not only we possibly could get it done at the next finance meeting, but then we got to add on that bonding. We have the budget meeting with the joint finance and council. We need the joint budget or bonding and council meeting as we had last year. So we're going to probably, as a result, and I can see that we have to bond this money for you to move forward on this, for you to move forward on anything. So yeah, we got to get this done. Would love to hear from other council members, their thoughts on let's move this ahead fast. What do you think, guys?
Thank you, Alder Darf.
Chairman, can I speak?
Okay, Alder LaFave. Go ahead, Alder
yes,
LaFave.
one thing I want to make one correction. They keep talking about the floods in 72. Yes, I think we bought our house in 71. In the summer, we would have a tiny little, water would come up a little bit, and the kids would play in it. But that's not the big one. It was in 73, the massive flood. It was not 72. But someone told me that I believe in 72, the city was talking about doing something. And it wasn't until after the 73 flood that there was meetings with the city, with the neighborhood people here, and they discussed the dike idea. And actually, they told us either you do the dike or they'd raise East Shore Drive, which I think that's why, because some people were questioning it. Oh, do we really need it? Well, yes, we did need it, because if you would have raised East Shore Drive, we definitely would have been on the other side of the water. But anyway, so it was done. And I want to mention that the last two recent floods, the December one, I had nothing coming over my dike. It was down a little further, about 5 houses down. It kind of ran over, and it came into my yard because I'm lower. And then it came around the front. In the one in the end of April, there was runover. Someone had mentioned there was like 2-foot waves coming over. No, that didn't happen. It was runover coming over the dike. And I will say that both of them have moved so many of the stones. A lot of our big stones are gone. We have very few. Most of them are down in the water and have slidden down. And it's also eating the clay top where we have our grass and that. It's eating big sections of that out. And that's why I'm saying, I say breaching. I mean that once it eats through enough of that on the top, it's going to come into the slant, and it's just going to pour in. So that's one thing that I think we have to really be cognizant of, that the dike is in bad shape. That last one really did something to it. And it is imperative that we get going, but I understand. I know there's all these different steps that have to be done. And another thing that I will mention, that the Neighborhood Association is here, and they're more than willing to help. Whatever we can do, we're here. And so the city, and Steve, in your department, reach out to us. Do you need us to get people to sign things, to get information out to people? Whatever you need, we're here to help. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alder LaFave. Committee members, any other alders?
I'd like to do, Chairman, is make a motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Okay. I have a motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alder Scannell, to open the floor for any interested parties. Any discussion on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The floor is opened. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this item? If you could just give me your name and address.
Are we unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay, Stephen Holshoe, 2218 California Avenue.
All right.
Few questions. The current elevation of the dike known in that, has it settled or sunk all?
Did you get that, Steve?
Have we done the survey for the top
I didn't get
elevation
it.
of the dike? The current elevation.
I wrote a chat. You can chat to everybody.
No, we haven't done a formal survey of the top of the dike. The proposed elevation back in 1973 by city datum was 103. By this emergency rule through the DNR, we cannot raise the dike at all. So it is the reinforcement that would be done would be to the existing top of dike as it lies today, assuming that the contractor would be disturbing some of the ground on top and on the landward side. They would have to restore that and basically seed and mulch and level the areas out. But as far as raising the dike, anything greater than what is out there today is not the intent of this emergency under the DNR's emergency self-certification program.
I know, I heard you. Well, you missed Kathy. Oh, Kathy. And you
Thank
missed
you, Matt.
Steve is now talking.
Steve,
Okay,
Steve
one at a
Holschuh
time,
still there?
please. One at a time. Do not speak, please, and just keep it orderly. Just ask to speak, and then we can do it one at a time. Otherwise, it'll be really confusing. Right now, Mr. Holschuh has the floor. Did you hear that, Mr. Holschuh?
I do. I have one more brief question, and then going forward to give other folks a chance, I will work my questions through Kathy that she can get them in at either another time. So the other question I have is there a maintenance strategy for the dike? And I'll term it in what's used in like the maintenance, if you think of the shop in the city. If you have a piece of equipment, a truck, anything, you can have a maintenance strategy that's called run to failure. I mean, you can just run it until it stops and you can tow it in. Works okay with something with a truck, but not with plumbing issues. In reading the report that Matt put out, thank you, Matt, there's at least 2 occasions I'm reading statements like there were no obvious signs of the dike failing. Do we have to wait on, if the dike had failed or does fail in the future, a breach through the clay cap, is that what it would take to get action? Some type of an emergency action?
The answer to that is no. Obviously, we've been planning to bring forward a project to the point where we've recommended expenditures of about $2.5 million this year. There has not been a good maintenance strategy in the past. That is something we are correcting. We are going to continue with annual inspections, more periodic if necessary, if we get big storms. In the future, we will continue to go out after each and every one of these large storms to do a quick inspection to see if anything has happened. But the plan moving forward is to have routine inspections of the dike, and if we find issues that need to be addressed, we will program those in a timely manner. So there is the intent to have a more proactive maintenance strategy moving forward from this time.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Holschuh?
That's Chris Wary. That's
Yes, that's, I'm done now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Holschuh. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to ask a question or comment?
the question.
Sure, if I could get your name and address. Was there a member of the public who wanted to speak?
I have a question.
Okay, I just need your name and address, please.
Yep, I'm David Corey at 1917 Lakeside Place.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Corey.
And I had a question for Matt. When you, I appreciated the background that you gave about the history of the dike and how it was built. And you said that it was primarily, the primary function was to decrease the wave energy that was coming off. And I just wanted to ask, it seems to me that that was actually the problem, was that the flood on April 29th and the one last fall, the waves were so strong that the water was coming through in between the rocks. And so it seems to me that the force of the waves and the energy that was causing the soil in between the rocks to erode, and that's what made the little rivulets that then flooded our backyard and then all of Lakeside and East Shore. So I'm wondering if, in fact, it is still able to maintain the function that it was originally designed for, namely to decrease the energy of the waves. Because it appears to me, while watching it last April 29th, that was exactly the problem. It was the force and the energy of the waves that caused then a breaching or deterioration of the soil between the rocks. Thank you.
Well, I think the answer to that, the wave itself, the wave was broken down. You had water coming through, but the wave itself did not continue up through your backyard and hit the house. So the function to dissipate the energy of the wave is still intact. That's what this thing is intended to do. Again, it's not intended to be watertight.
The other aspect is we will acknowledge, or I will acknowledge, that a lot of the armament has been displaced. And that is the primary function of the action that we are proposing to take or planning to take, is to place new stone in and around the dike edge. We actually have video and photos of the last storm of waves coming up over the dike. So the elevation of the bay in and about the time of that storm was around elevation 101, 101 and a half. We had reports of 6-foot waves in some areas crashing over the dike. So that means there, in some cases, was 4-foot waves coming over the dike. So any armament that was there wasn't able to dissipate as much energy. And then as the day went on, the bay level subsided because the wind subsided, and the waves obviously subsided as well. Thus, the storm sewer systems in and around Lakeside Place, East Shore, were able to catch up and relieve the ditches and whatnot in that area.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Corey, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Corey? No? Any other
Nope.
citizen? Okay. Anybody else with a question from the public? Just give me your name and address.
I have
Okay.
just a statement.
Could I get your name and address, please?
Sure. Belinda Dow, 2747 East Shore Drive.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just to tag on to what Kathy was saying and what others have mentioned, in that April storm, also in December as well, but in April, the waves were definitely several feet over the dike. We ended up with water coming over the dike and just a few feet away from the house. The only reason we ended up not getting anything in the house or under the house was because my daughter, thankfully, to all of you who took part in providing this sandbags, that did help, but we also had a professional pump to pump water back into the bay. Other than that, we would have really had a mess. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Ms. Dow. Anyone else from the public? Anyone else?
I have a question. Lynn Walters.
Oh, could I just get your name and address?
Lynn Walter, no S, Walter, 2323
Okay.
Lakeside Place.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I have a question that directs more, I suppose, to financing, but I'm afraid if the floods keep going, our property values are going to tank and the tax base is going to go down from our property values going down. Right now, if I can't tell a seller that this is not going to happen again and again and again, it's going to be hard for me to even sell the property.
Did you have a question or was it more of a comment, Lynn?
It was more of a comment, and I was just
Okay.
wondering what
Okay.
kind of response I could hear from the committee about that question about financing and property values.
Okay.
Well, I think, Barb, are you chair of finance or is it Bill?
Oh, it's me. It's me. Thank you so much for throwing that on me. I can't really answer that because I don't know, I don't know the effect on property values. I don't know what the worth is of all the property out there. I do know I'd like to get to the point where we talk about getting money for the project. So I'm hoping we'll get back to that at some point. That's the question that I led with. So hopefully we can get back to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alder Darf. Perhaps not the exact answer you were looking for, Lynn, but I think everybody's concerned with, the safety of everyone there and their property values, in total. And that's all part of this decision. And I think you can see everybody's really pushing to get to the point here very quickly that we can get a project moving. So
Yes,
I think
thank
everybody
you.
gets through.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to thank,
Okay, yes, please. Your name and address?
it's Pat Hagerty, 2637 East Shore Drive.
Thank you, Pat.
Well, unfortunately, my house is between two homes that are much higher than mine, at least 4 feet higher. And because of the way the dike is constructed, when the water comes over, like it did both instances, I get water from not only my own yard, but also from the other 2 yards. So I had a lake, this last one, all the way from the dike, all the way to across the street. I was surrounded by water. I'm on a 3-foot crawl space. I have no basement. And the water was actually going in my west window well, broke through, and it came out in my east window well in my garage. And then luckily it flowed out to the road. So it was, I had a real mess. I still do. Along with all of the things that come up from the water, the stone is almost impossible to get out of my lawn. And the waves were coming over. It was very scary to be here. I felt like I was looking at the ocean, that the waves were so high in my area, and they were definitely breaking over the dike. It seemed like I had some small whitecaps, in fact, right up by the dike down the back part of my yard. So I think every house, every instance is kind of a little bit different. Both of my neighbors had no water. Their front yard started to fill up because mine was so full. So that's just my comment.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hagerty. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment or have a question?
Chairman Weary, can I talk to Pat on that? I wanted to ask her to stay on the meeting here. Number 4 might be part of that. It's about the people who have to build up for FEMA, and then they have all the runoff of water, not from the dike or the bay, I should say. It was mostly from all the rains that we were having and everything, that they have to mitigate that runoff. So she might want to listen to that one.
All right. So noted. All right. If no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gillick. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, the floor is closed. Any committee members or any other alders here wishing to comment or make a motion?
Alder Chairman, can I mention something again?
Alder Stroyer?
Go ahead, LaFave.
Oh, I recognize Alder Sawyer first, then we'll go back to you.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Well, he deferred, so
I deferred.
it's all yours, Kathy.
Oh, okay. I want to go back to Steve Horseshoe. I think the question he had wasn't quite interpreted right, because he sent me the email, and I know we had discussions on this, and I have noticed this also. I think what he meant is that there are areas of the dike, it seems like it has settled. It might not be at 103. Has the city gone through and actually checked to see is the whole dike at the 103 elevation all along? I guess that's for either Matt or Steve.
We did understand that question, and we did answer it. No, we have not completed a formal survey of the elevation of the top of the dike.
Okay, but you're aware that there could be some of that happening?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Alder LaFave. Alder Sawyer, back to you.
All right, thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions, so I might be reading a little bit here. And either Steve or Matt, you could answer these, I would hope. I noticed the map, there's 12 work zones that are shown from zone 10 through zone 21. They're all different sizes. I guess I just wanted to know how these were delineated. I suppose they're between roads, but I all different lengths. So I was just wondering how that was delineated.
Steve or Matt, do you know the answer to that one?
The process was actually pretty arbitrary initially, and that was all based upon our inspections that we started in 2018. But for the most part, the intent was to try and get equal or as close to equal segments as possible and utilize the state streets where practical. In and around Nevada towards the east, Mahone Creek, obviously there's no side streets there. So the segments are a little bit longer. But in some cases it was based upon arbitrary delineation.
Okay, I'll keep going here. Depending on what methodology is used, and you have 4 different options out there, and we have to look at monies and all that good stuff with that. But would the methodology from zone 10 through zone 21, would that stay consistent all the way through? And I guess one reason I'm asking that is it mandatory that the citizens sign for this? I mean, what if a few people decide not to do it? And
the short answer is if any resident who does not sign the paperwork, no work on their section of the dike will occur.
Right, and I guess the problem I see with that is that if a few people don't do it, it'll cause problems all the way around. I'm just seeing that as an issue.
I don't disagree with you, Alder.
So
I can't force somebody
to
sign the paper.
I guess, well, with that being said, were the citizens all made aware of this permitting process, and what kind of responses are you getting to this right now?
I'm glad that Alder LaFave mentioned the eagerness of her neighborhood association, because we are going to be relying on them quite heavily. That is part of our plan. Not only because it's expeditious, but also because I believe it to be good governance for staff to reach out and utilize and interact with those neighborhood associations. We're out there trying to improve the quality of life for people who live there. If they've got a mechanism where we can more expeditiously get things completed and get information disseminated, we would be foolish not to utilize that. So we do intend to use the East Shore Neighborhood Association to assist us in public outreach and to get those signatures.
All right, I'll defer in a minute here, but I'm just, there's 4 different options that are brought up, and I'll be happy to hear what some of the other alders and staff have to say to that. So I defer for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Steuer. All right. If I don't see your hand, just say your name and I'll recognize you.
Can I kind of answer that? A little bit of that?
No. No. Yeah, you can.
Thanks.
Only so many times you can tell your mother-in-law.
I can't promise. I can't promise that there. I can't promise that there might be some people who are going to be not against it, but I talked to a lot of people. I had people calling me, emailing me, and I did go out after, and I did talk to some people. And I tell you, I think they're eager for something to be done. I don't think we're going to have a problem. And I think one thing that we mentioned exactly, Bill Dean told us after December flood, our property values went down 20%. If this continues, it'll go down 50%. And I think I think they'll be eager to have something done. So yes, and Steve, we will be working with you and pushing this and getting this done, okay?
Right. Thanks, Alder Lefebvre. All right. Yeah. Alder Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Question for Director Grenier or Mr. Heckenleibel. Did I read correct that there are 25 properties along the dike that are most affected? I saw that in the report. How many properties are we looking at affected when the water overgoes the dike?
That all depends on the directionality of the wind. But the 25, the number of parcels 25 was indicative to properties that have private improvements within the easement section, which could make it more challenging for a contractor to place this armament in and along the dike. So there's approximately 152 individual parcels that have to be accounted for, and that's from the west or east side of Bay Beach all the way up to Mahone Creek.
Okay, so the 25 properties I saw was for one particular, I think it was option 4 or something on
the 25 is for any option selected, and right now the only option that we are moving forward with at this time is option 4, the taking advantage of the DNR's willingness to allow us to do work and permit second. If we look at any other option, we need to obtain permits first, which again is at 145-day minimum permitting process.
Yep.
And prior to even a clock starting, we have to obtain and fill out all the applications, which is anywhere from 8 to 24 staff hours per permit.
Okay, Director Grenier, when we had the most recent flood 2 weeks ago, how many properties were affected directly?
Offhand, I don't know. And then also to clarify and expound a little bit about upon what Matt said, the 2020 plan involves option 4. Now, what we need to do is we need to get that dike back to 1973 conditions. And of what we've evaluated, the 4 options are what we've evaluated to date. Of those 4 options, option 4 is the only one that's going to get us there in a timely manner. So that's what we're pursuing now. That doesn't preclude us from considering something else as a long-term solution, but long-term comes after we get that thing back into shape. We got to get the dike fixed first. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you, Director. No other questions, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Alder Burnett. Any other alders? Don't see your hand, just shout your name out.
Alder Scannell.
There we go. Alder Scannell. Just need to hit your mute button.
Yes. This is Alder Darf. I've been looking, rereading. There's a lot here in your communication, what exactly is the action you want us to take at committee tonight?
Alder?
That you can take, I guess it would be to approve it. Director Grenier, he needs money too. So you can take some action, but he needs to get the money to do it. So
right, that's why I'm not sure what action we can take tonight that works. Do we need to hold this, or do we need to?
Alder, where he's the chair, I think he knows that.
Okay, well, I would like to know exactly, as far as discussion for honing in on, what exactly is the action we need to take, and what do we need to discuss to get that action taken care of?
Well,
if I may, Alder Scannell?
Go ahead, Director.
Go ahead, Director. I hate to do it because it's misunderstood by the community far too often. If we've addressed Alder Dorf's concerns, if we've answered at least most of her questions, because the council has already adopted our capital improvement plan, and the capital improvement plan does have the money in there for us to pursue an active project associated with the dike repairs. And we have explained to you, I hope, what that plan is. I don't know that the council needs to take any additional action to direct us to execute that plan by adopting the CIP. You've already done that. We can't take any action which would commit city funds until we have those funds available.
Right.
So upon adoption or execution of the bond issuance, then we can move forward. And that definitely is our intent. And I hope that's well understood within the community. If that is the case, and we have addressed the questions Alder Dorf has brought up to her satisfaction, this was a report on funding and what our plan is. And if we've given those answers, I think it would entirely be appropriate to receive support.
That's what I was kind of thinking, but I wanted to make sure. And so I make the motion, we receive and place on file. And then when it comes to bonding,
what a tasty treat!
And get the money
club sandwich, which is everything. Someone who eats everything. Yes, because I know exactly.
Can we?
So I make the motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
All right. There's a motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gillick to receive and place on file. Alder Burnett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm in favor of the motion. I think it's a good motion. I agree with Director Grenier, and I'm actually very thankful for Alder Dorf and Alder Lefevre bringing this up to this committee, because it's good to have this discussion, visibility to the public, and to hear from the folks that are most affected. So I feel very good about the conversation we had, and I think we all have a better understanding of the issues out there. And I feel relieved to know that the city has a variety of plans to help address it. So thank you to Director Grenier and Mr. Heckenleibel. So I'm in favor of the motion. I think it's a good one.
Thank you, Alder Burnett. Alder Dorf.
Yes.
At your committee, was money approved, or are you taking this up at your next committee?
Yeah, we went over, we spent a few hours going over the first section of it, and we're going to do it all together. So we've got the equipment part and the fleet part left to do. That can be done at the very next finance meeting. Council meets Tuesday. Finance meeting is the next Tuesday. And then if we could get on the fast track, there's a problem to just approve part of it because it costs so much more. You can't just, if you approve part of your bonding, then it costs more to come back and then approve the rest of the bonding. So we've got to, as a council, take it as a package. And it's in there, but it's going to be up to the whole city council to approve that. So we'll try to get it. My goal is to get it by June 3rd. Maybe we will have to dispense with that finance and council meeting and have that at the council meeting. Do you know what I'm saying? In the joint meeting?
Your last meeting, was it the intent to get through all the bonding requests?
No, it wasn't. It was not. Because it was a 400-page document. So the intent was to get through the first portion because we had other business. And then I said, let's keep the other business really low for the next meeting if we can and get through the whole rest. So we have about 300 pages left. Okay, which we will get through. We can do that. We'll sit there and we'll get that done. And then we got to bring that to council. And then council's got to get through it all. So, but we'll come with a recommendation.
Okay, well, that does help to set the stage. Thank you, Alder Darf. Director Grenier, is it, from what I'm hearing, number 4 really is what you're moving forward, what you would like to move forward with, that emergency plan?
That is correct.
Is that
as Mr. Heckenleibel indicated, the permitting requirements that the DNR would impose and Corps would impose on us would put this into 2021 for anything but option 4.
And that takes out options 1 and 3.
That option 4 is what we're pursuing this year.
Right.
There's nothing that would preclude us from taking something more extensive in the future, but we want to get that dike stabilized immediately.
I don't think it would be out of order if we endorsed that plan and received in place and file, right? I don't know if the motion maker would be fine with that, receiving in place and file with the understanding that we're endorsing the 4th option presented.
Well,
that would help give some...
I got no problem with it. I don't know if it makes any kind of difference at all. I mean, we'll be endorsing it when we get to council. That's when it's really going to count. But if you want to add something like an endorsement, if that's not inappropriate, I got no problem with it. That's fine.
Well, I think that's fine. I think it does show that our committee, handled the issue and did endorse that option. I think it gives some direction from our committee. Otherwise, it looks like we just, received place on file and didn't do much. I mean, we listened, which is important, but I like giving direction and positive enforcement. So if that's okay with you, Alder Scannell, was that your motion?
I can amend the motion is so, my motion is so amended.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Gillick to receive and place on file.
Alder Gillick, sorry.
Oh.
Gillick.
That's true. Alder Gillick.
Will she second that amended motion?
I'm fine. I second it.
Okay, thank you. So we have an amended motion to receive and place and file with the understanding that the committee endorses the emergency option number 4 that was presented. Is that all right with the committee?
Yep.
Okay. Discussion? Those in favor?
Oh, wait, Alder Steuer is raising his hand.
Is he? Alder Steuer, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
I didn't hear your hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It'll be noisier next time. Steve, I was going to ask, with option 4, you have, it's on page 7 of your memo, of the memo that you two put together. And I'm just wondering, are there prices or monies shown on this? It's on the bottom of the page. It says challenges and what's next. Is that part of option 4? I guess I just want a clarification on some of that.
The challenges exist regardless of which option we pursue.
Okay.
But the $2.5 million that we have in the CIP for 2020 is to pursue option 4.
Okay. It just wasn't shown on the document, at least that I saw. So I just wanted to make sure that that's what that was aimed for. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Steuer. So this report will go to committee next week. The week after that, finance will meet and discuss the rest of the bonding. Correct, Alder Steuer or Alder Darf? Just so the public understand. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Appreciate the public who stuck with us. We have a couple more items if you want to stay. This will go to council next Tuesday. And number 2 is a consideration with possible action on request by Alder Galvin that the current process for funding sidewalk repairs contracted by the city for residents be studied with the possibility of making changes. This is referred from the April 29th INS meeting. Alder Galvin. Most importantly there, Alder Galvin, do you have your milk? inside joke, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so what I had asked the committee at the last meeting to do was to look at currently when residents contract through the city to have sidewalk repaired or replaced, they get an option to pay it back over 5 years with interest. I asked the staff was to look at what that interest usually fleshes out to be. And I was just asking that if possible, when we go forward in the future, starting this year with the sidewalk replacement, that the property residents or property owners are only obligated to pay back the principal and not the interest.
Director.
Okay. With that understanding, I did go and talk to the finance department. On an annual basis, between 25 and 50% of property owners do have the city financing. This year's program includes about $103,000 worth of private walk. It is my opinion that if we offer a no interest program, that more people will participate than in a normal year. So what I asked the finance department to do was take a look at a 50% participation rate or about $50,000 and a $103,000 participation. I mean, everybody, so we know what a maximum outlay would be. If $50,000 is the number that people finance, over the 5 years, that comes out to an additional $5,655 of interest that the city would be responsible for picking up. If everybody participated on 103,000 over 5 years, that would be an additional $11,649 that the city would have. I think it is worthy to note that the bond request we have submitted that Finance Committee was talking about last night not have this interest included in it, nor does it have the $103,000 worth of principal, which we would also have to cover to allow these people to make it, because the first payment's not going to be due until January.
So there's no bonding request for this $103,000 or $100,000 plus dollars?
No, usually the property owners would start paying that off immediately. Like I said, between 50 and 75% of them usually pay this within the first 30 days after receiving the bill.
All right, but how do you cover the other, say 50% of them do it, that's $50,000. How do you cover that?
The program itself has been a little bit lower in other years, so we make that up in contingency funding.
All right. And this year, I don't know, I haven't had anyone tell me that they're not participating. In fact, my understanding was, I think someone told me the other day that if they haven't opted out, they're in. Is that correct?
By participating, what I mean is if we offer a no interest 5-year loan to somebody, somebody who otherwise may have paid the bill in full to avoid the interest payments may now take advantage of that no interest loan and pay it off over time instead. We may see an uptick in the people who utilize the city financing.
Okay. So,
I do have a question, Director there.
What's that?
I do have a question for you. I think we're lagging a little bit. I see several people moving around a little bit. You can also, it's a tenure if you have a hardship. Is that financial or health?
Okay, you're breaking up really badly.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of people's movements are breaking up as well. Is there a 10-year hardship that can be applied for? Okay.
I don't know if that exists on the sidewalk, because sidewalk is actually a fee, it's not an assessment. The assessments, under assessments, businesses have a 10-year option, and we have extended that to residential properties for pavement assessments. I don't know that that exists for the sidewalk. What we have is an unpaid balance.
The only reason I ask is
we have to check with the law department to see if something like that could be arranged as well.
Okay. The reason I ask is I do have a gentleman who has 12 or 14 cakes that were marked, and he's responsible for 8 of them. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with some brain and lung cancer, and somebody in DW did say he should qualify for a 10-year hardship payment. So did that come through?
If we're talking about a hardship situation, I think that somebody could make that request at any time for any of these types of issues. I don't know that that would come through INS or if it would come through finance. Again, I would have to talk to law department. Again, the demonstration of indigency is specifically enumerated under assessments, under special assessments.
Okay. Any committee have a question or comment? Anything further?
If I could, Chris.
Go ahead.
All I'm trying to do with this, and I mean, and this is right now I'm just talking for this year, but next year we have to look at the process that is in place to start replacing the sidewalk in 1/15 of the city every year for the next 15 years. But I have, I brought up at the last committee meeting, I have a 94-year-old woman who's lived in the same house for over 55 years. And she has 29 sections of sidewalk that either need to be repaired or replaced. Now, the repairing is not that expensive. Sometimes it's just caulking that, but I've got to get a city employee out there to detail to her what has to be replaced and what can be repaired. But she's very, very hesitant. Her children are worried about her because now she's worrying about this thing. I have other constituents who have been furloughed due to the COVID restrictions. And, they say they can somehow make it work, but I'm just trying to make this a little bit more palatable for everybody in the city as we move forward, because there's some areas of the city, as you know, the sidewalks have been neglected for 20 or 30 years. And there's been no enforcement of the sidewalks, repairs or anything else like that. And so for some people, it's going to be a stiff bill. Other people, it may just be a couple, $300, which for some people is a lot of money though. So I'm just trying to make this easier for people to be able to afford it. I wasn't asking to have money taken off because I thought that could get pretty expensive for the city. And I think homeowners do have a responsibility. But I thought if they're paying the principal and the city's covering the interest, I just thought that might be a little bone we could throw people and just make it a little bit easier for them to swallow this pill.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question or comment or motion?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this bill. I think it's a great thought moving forward with sidewalks. I mean, there's any number of issues with sidewalks, but I think a lot of citizens don't realize that, of home ownership to deal with that. I think a lot of folks could be an education type of process that we need to let folks know that that's part of being a homeowner is dealing with sidewalks. So I think the biggest thing for me with sidewalks is that somebody might complain that, hey, why do I have to have my sidewalks fixed? And then somebody across the street, they're even worse. So it's kind of a complaint driven thing. And I know this is off topic, but I'm just saying there's certain issues that add to this dynamic as well. But I thank you for bringing this forward, and I think I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sawyer. Alder Scannell.
Thank you. Just a question for Alder, sorry, Director Grenier. I want to make sure I got this right. If we go this way and we do not charge the interest, where would that come out of? In contingency funds or somewhere else?
It's going to come out of our bond request.
It would come out of your bond request.
Right.
Alder Darf?
No, I have to wait for Alder Weary to call me.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Well, yeah, sorry. Well,
go ahead.
My question.
Listen, my heart bleeds for these people too. I get it. And we have to cut at least $2 million out of the bond request that we have right now, if not more. And we want these pavement projects to be done. And the storm sewers, we cut that in half for this year. And all of this is coming out of the DPW budget. We're to our people in our city, and we understand that they're going through a hard time. And I feel really bad for the lady with all the sidewalk cakes. I do. And you guys, where are we going to get the money unless we ask for it from somewhere else? It's coming out of DPW. We're trying to fix the dike. We're trying to surface roads. We're trying to put in sidewalks. I don't know. I guess I'm just expressing, where are we going to get the money? It's not there. It means something else won't be done if we do this. But maybe it's not a lot of money. How much money is it? Does anybody know?
Yeah, Director Grenier mentioned.
My internet went out, so I couldn't hear anything. Sorry.
For $50,000 over 5 years is $5,000, correct? Something like that. Yeah. So 5 years, $5,000. If it was 50, and that's half of that's 50%. 50.
Because we will pay interest. We will pay interest because it's in bonding. So it's not like just money that's laying around or anything. We have to borrow this money, put it into the sidewalks. Then we as a city have to pay interest. And it's all interconnected. It
is. And if I may,
Alder Darf, did you have anything further?
Well, I still got the floor, but but if they're answering my question, I don't mind interjection. I'll concede the floor or open the floor. You can have the floor as long as I get it back.
All right, Alder Galvin.
My question.
All right.
Alder Galvin, then back to Alder Scannell.
All right. Thank you, Alder Scannell. Thank you, Chair. Look, I struggle with this too. And that's why every meeting we sit at Finance, where we're forgiving people's property taxes, we're forgiving people's fines and assessments, and we keep trying to be the nice guy, and we feel sorry for these people. And so we keep giving this money back. Any storm sewer, we just cut from $970 to $500. I mean, in the back of my mind, while I'm thinking about this project I've been pushing for 3 years to move forward, in the back of my mind, when we're forgiving all these debts that people have incurred with the city, I keep adding this up in the back of my head thinking, well, all the money we've given back to citizens this year would have more than paid the interest on this project right now. And so these are the things we struggle with. And I sat through that meeting yesterday before my brain went numb from looking at all those numbers and trying to figure all the gazintas. But it's that's true. Where are we going to get it? Where are we going to get it? And how are we going to pay for it? But this is a project that I feel very strongly about. I look at the claims from people that fall and injure themselves on our sidewalks. I look at the people walking in the roadways because they can't walk on the sidewalks. We've got a real problem here. We got a real problem with the dike. We got a real problem with the roads and the storm sewers, and we get a litany. So I'm just asking for consideration here. That's all I'm doing. And I'm not asking to cut the cost of replacing the sidewalk. These people are still responsible for paying the principal. Okay? Whereas in the mini storm sewer, they're not. They're having part of that principal is being picked up by the city. People that we've forgiven taxes on. This dike. Okay, now their property value went down 20%, but it's like, okay, but it's 125 homes or 150 homes compared to how many homes in the inner cities of East and West Side Green Bay. that we need to be thinking about. So, I mean, yeah, it's a balancing situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Alder Gavin. Back to you, Alder Scannell.
Yeah, well, then, if I may, do I have the floor?
Yes.
Or?
Alder Scannell, you have the floor. Then Gerlach, you had your hand up as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So
okay.
then just to be clear, it'd be that let's use the 5,000, but we'd also be paying interest on that 5,000 because it's bonded money, and we'd be paying interest on the bond. Correct?
The 5,600 is the interest. We'd also be fronting the 50,000.
Ah, okay. I see. I got the numbers in my head now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alder Gillick.
I just wondered if I know that I have read that for the storm sewer program, there is, you said, qualifying as indigent, and you get it interest free over 5 years or something like that. Can that possibly be done for the sidewalk repair, so that this 94-year-old woman, if she really can't afford, I mean, I'm sorry she's worried about it, but that's not necessarily money. If she really can't afford to pay for it, then can that program be extended to the sidewalks also? And then people who can afford to pay for it will pay for it. And if they want to do it over 5 or 10 years, they'll pay the interest. Can that happen?
I am more than happy to have that conversation with law department, but as I indicated, currently the only place that we address an allowance for a demonstration of indigency is for special assessments. Sidewalk is not a special assessment. Sidewalk is the financial responsibility of the adjacent property owner, so it's more analogous to an invoice that somebody would receive for long grass and weeds or snow and ice on the sidewalk. It's that adjoining property owner's financial responsibility to address the sidewalk that's deficient adjacent to their property. And if they fail to do so within the 60-day window that we give them by resolution, then the city performs that work and bills them the actual cost for it. So it's not an assessment, okay? Again, indigency is only referenced under the assessments, but I'm more than happy to have that conversation with law department to see if that can be extended.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder. All right, any other hands? Alder Scannell.
Alder Galvin, would you mind if we held this one more time till we got that answer? That might help with the decision.
That's fine. I don't know if I want to force people to have to pull out all their financial records and beg indigency, for this. I mean, looking forward, I just think it would be a good program for the city to offer everybody. I mean, let's face it. Personally, I think the city owns some responsibility here, that they haven't been going around and making people maintain their sidewalks. When we had road assessments, people were certainly being held to task for that. The road's coming in, and if you vote it down, then you're responsible for the road. But when you have people that call it in because they have a tree that uprooted the sidewalk, and they're told, well, if you want to complain about that tree, then we got to look at your whole sidewalk. And obviously, what's everyone going to say? I don't want to do it. And so we end up with what we have, which is buckled, cracked, deficient sidewalks. There's no way they're ADA compliant. And like I said, you've got people in the roadway. I have elderly. I have mothers with children in strollers, joggers. Nobody can use the sidewalks. And in the wintertime, they're so dysfunctional that they collect water, they turn into ice. And anyone who's ever worked finance can, talk about the claims they've seen from the people that have fallen down. I just think this is something we should offer everybody and not make them claim indigency for that.
Thank you, Alder.
Well, then let's just see how it flies. How about I'll make a motion to approve the communication to how is it worded here? Well, they're making the changes. It doesn't say the changes. The changes would be to not charge interest, correct? Right. So make a motion that we do not charge interest for sidewalk repair.
For this year?
Yeah, let's do it by that. That's a good idea.
I'd be okay. Let's do it this year, see what the response is, and then next year, then this summer, we're going to have some interns go out and start checking the 2 sections of the city, and I think DPW will have a pretty good idea after this summer what they're looking at for next year, and then seeing what the response is this year, I think would also give us a pretty good indication where we might be going.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Alder Scannell. Is there a second to that motion? There's a second to the motion. I will second it. So we have a motion and a second under discussion. Alder Burnett.
Thank you, Chairman. It's tough. I'll be honest. It's a tough vote because my heart, my instinct, everything says yes. But as Alder Darf said, sitting through that finance committee and looking at the bonding and issues we have in the city and how are we going to cut to get down to an acceptable amount so we can hopefully eventually start paying down our debt faster than we're taking it on. I'm conflicted, but I'm going to vote no on the motion with very conflicted thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any other comments? I'll comment. Director Grenier, I know you stated that we do take this out of contingency, right? Our portion of it or whatever part we need to come up with?
Historically, we have done that out of the contingency that's built into the CIP. This year, in order to try to get the CIP down to a manageable level, we had to shave that off.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. The motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Weary, is to approve the request for 0% interest on the sidewalk replacement fees, loans, I guess. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. That is 2-2. That motion failed. What are your wishes? We could pass it 2-2 to council if you'd like.
Yeah,
all right.
I think we should pass it on to council.
All right. We'll go 2-2 to council.
If I could, just to get it back before the committee, the way that we will have this reported would be a motion by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Weary, to not charge interest for unpaid sidewalk repairs financed by the city for the 2020 program year.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Bill. All right. Number 3, consideration with possible action on request by Alder Gillick to have staff collect and analyze data regarding the number and cost to both the city and the residents of many storm sewers requested and installed during the spring, summer, and fall of 2020 for the purpose of evaluating the impact of the reduction in fee hookup. Alder Gillick.
Well, I tell you what, I'm just really, really sad about this. 24 hours ago, I was sitting through the finance committee meeting. Alder Darf, I think, is being kind when she says we were supposed to take $2 million off. I would believe we were told we were encouraged to take $3 million off. Tonight, we hear about the need for the dike. That's not really an option. That has to be done. And, you know, we just talked about forgiving the interest for sidewalk payments that aren't made. And now, you know, I mean, this passed against my wishes. It's a small amount of money. And the sidewalk interest is a small amount of money. I just believe it all adds up. And I believe that it's very sad to see that the city is bleeding money when, and I mean, Alder Galvin just talked about the fact that the sidewalks are in such bad shape. People constantly talk about how the streets are in such bad shape. And little by little, we're just letting it all dribble away. I was totally against this. We now have from if you saw in your packet, we have from Director Grenier the financial implication. Okay, it's not a lot. It's $23,500. But I guess what really makes me sad was this was proposed as an incentive program. I asked if there was any evidence that this would incentivize anyone. I was given no evidence by anyone. I asked who would communicate this to citizens as an incentive program. Nobody is going to communicate it. In fact, the 50 households that are going to be asked to hook up were already chosen. We as alders had already received our land, which ones in our districts were going to be hooked up. I don't see that it's an incentive, and it just, again, is a little way to make the city less fiscally solvent. And so there's nothing I can do about it, but received and placed on file, but I do that with great sadness.
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Alder Gillick and seconded by Alder Scannell to receive and place on file. Any other discussion on this item? I don't see any hands. So those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4 is consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Lefebvre to look at residential policy per stormwater runoff. Residences are experiencing rainwater runoff from elevated houses because of floodplain building elevation requirements, FEMA, referred from February 25th. Are you still with us, Alder Lefebvre? All right, Director Grenier, do you know what Alder Lefebvre is looking for here?
I do. I did have an opportunity to have a conversation with Alder Lefebvre, and what we're dealing with here, there are certain properties where when a property is developed or redeveloped, because the prior structure was below the floodplain elevation or below the current floodplain elevation, that property then needs to be raised up to meet the new floodplain requirements. When you do a redevelopment or develop a vacant parcel to meet those requirements, what you wind up with that's higher than the surrounding properties, and it sort of winds up on an island and it directs its water to the adjoining property owner. So we did hear from a resident under item 1 that was talking about all the properties around her that are higher in elevation than her and creating a lake on her property. So once I had the opportunity to discuss this with Alder Lefebvre to find out what exactly she was looking for, I did sit down and have a conversation with Director Bonk on this. As it's a private property issue, it doesn't occur within the public right-of-way. It's actually not under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Works. I did offer to Alder Lefebvre to leave it on our agenda so that if she desired, she could have some discussion here to start that conversation. But this does belong at Plan Commission, so our recommendation is to refer this communication to Director Vonk is ready to take that up.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
There was a motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Scannell to refer this to Planning Commission. Alder Lefebvre, I'm searching through here. I don't see you.
I see.
Yeah, there you are, but you're muted.
Yeah.
There she is.
There we go.
Okay.
Darn.
Okay.
I mean, good.
You muted me
That's what I
again.
meant.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It started with some properties on. It's either Burner or Rebra. I keep forgetting which street that is. Anyway, the gentleman. There's 2 houses between 2 that had to raise up. So he's really, last year with all the rain, he's not getting part of the problem now, but he was having so much flooding. His whole backyard was getting full of the rainwater running off their properties. And then, yes, now because down on along East Shore Drive here, new houses have built up. And then there's another one where they built up the lot. They were going to join the next one who had raised up. They raised up higher, but they did not join up to their property. So they have about a 5-foot area where all that debris just filled right in and all the water ran in. So there are issues with this. And because the city has no regulations on this when they do build, I believe there has to be something put in there where anybody who has to raise up their house when they want to build, remodel, whatever, from the FEMA regulations, that they have to mitigate any runoff of water from their property. I just think it's common sense. So yes, thank you for letting me just to explain that. And then yes, I will plan on. Would the committee be putting the communication in, or do I have to put the communication in?
We'll be referring it there.
Pardon?
We're referring it directly there.
You will. Okay, thank you.
Yes. At least that's what the motion is right now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just one quick.
I will. Yeah, go ahead, Alder Scannell.
Yeah, just say I also have a constituent has a similar problem. I believe it's on Gallagher or over that way by Velp. Everybody around him had to build up, and now he's their swimming pool. So yeah, I'm glad this is something to get looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Scannell. I'll chime in. It's not in a floodplain, but on Shadow Lane right now, some houses are being bought and rebuilt as a luxury condo or a B&B, whatever it is, and they're a couple feet higher. So people on Thorndale behind now are getting a lot of water runoff. So we're just starting to experience that with the elevation change and mitigating runoff. They're not mitigating it; they're just sending it to other people. Yeah. So I don't know under this communication if any elevation change can be handled, but we'll send it there and see what they can work on. Steve's nodding his head. Yes. So good. Any other comments on this item? All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are on to item number 5. Consideration with possible action on General Ordinance 1420, an ordinance to amend section. Sorry. Clicked on the wrong area. To amend section 29.211 GBMC relating to penalties for parking violations. Steve, is this yours, or is Director Pirlot here?
I've got Assistant City Attorney Mather is here with us again tonight in case we have specific questions. The short version of this is, as we have updated the parking citation rates over time, taken that through committee and then gotten council approval on that, it's been brought to our attention. It actually does also require an ordinance change. The parking violations are written in the city ordinance, Green Bay Municipal Code. So all this action does is updates Green Bay Municipal Code to be consistent with the actions already approved by the committee and council. It's really a procedural step.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from the committee? Anyone else?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Chairman Weary?
Well, 1 second. I do have a motion. I'm going to handle that first.
Okay.
So hold on. We do have a motion to approve by Alder Scannell. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. You seconded it, Alder Burnett?
I said either myself or Alder. Yes.
Okay. Now we'll have discussion. Alder Burnett.
Yes. Thank you, Director Grenier. I want to be very clear for the sake of the committee. I did contact Mr. Pirlot and Director Grenier by email, and Chris mentioned the reason for the timing of it all. I think, the timing, in my opinion, is necessary to bring it forward. I'm glad it's here now. Perhaps maybe it should have been brought forward a few months ago. And the reason I say that is some of the belief in the community is that somehow parking utility is being overzealous in issuing citations, which we know is out there circulating. And so when the public sees this, we understand as a committee that this decision was made months ago, but the way that it's coming forward now, it makes us appear as though we're looking to collect more money to offset city revenue. So I just want to make sure we're clear as a committee that we understand that this was voted on a long time ago. And for the public who may be listening or watching in on this, this is just simply an update of an ordinance that is consistent with what we do in any situation when we update your votes. Is that correct, Director Grenier?
That is correct. And actually, when we did a little bit of research to find out, okay, how did we make this oversight? What we found out was, due to retirement, we had an individual that was working down in the law department who would monitor our INS committee minutes. And when we would take an action like this through at the committee level, he was automatically doing the ordinance revisions and adding the ordinance to the next regularly scheduled council meeting, and it was being handled procedurally without any action. With her retirement, there was a knowledge gap that fell in there, and we just sort of found out about it, and we went, oh, geez, we need to correct that. So now that we know about it, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again in the future.
And again, Director Grenier, I believe it happens. I mean, we'd like to think that we run things perfectly as a city, but things fall through once in a while. I just want the public to be aware that we're not looking to capture revenue by pushing this thing through. And I know we know that's true, but I'm just saying public perception is a lot.
Great point.
Just to provide some additional context for that, if anybody is wondering about the dates, this was passed by committee on September 25th and approved by council on October 1st. So I understand Alder Burnett's comments about timeliness, but I just want to emphasize, this was in fact, the change was made months ago. The ordinance update just didn't happen at that same time.
Thank you. And that clarification was brought to you by Attorney Mather, correct?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't introduce myself. Right. I apologize.
No, that's great. Good to hear your voice. All right. Any other comments or questions?
Alder LaFave.
Oh, Alder LaFave.
One thing, because I'm newly on the protection of policy, I did ask for what the classifications, what they stand for. Can I ask somebody to send me the definition? What is Class A parking violation? Class B, C? I don't understand, what those entail. Could somebody send that to me?
Director Greer, can you make a little note and have somebody send her those?
We will be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alder LaFave? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Alderman Sawyer. Need to unmute.
I'll get better at this. Anyway, thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification on E, $302. Going up from $150 for a Class E. I just need to know what Class E stands for again.
Director, test your memory here.
If at all.
If memory serves, that's the parking in a handicap zone.
Okay.
And
that's
again,
correct.
All of the citation rates that are listed seem to be a little odd because they're in $2 increments. That $2 was something we had talked about. There's a pass-through cost that comes from a vendor that constitutes that extra $2. The violations are not in $5 increments.
Well, right, but it just seemed like it was over double for that last one. I just was wondering why, and I know we passed that, but I'm just wondering why.
There was significant discussion that occurred at the committee level, and it was with regard to parking in a handicap zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And
Thank you.
This is Attorney Mather again. That conversation also occurred among the entire council at the October 1st meeting when the entire updated numbers were adopted.
Okay. Thank
you. We might need to have Attorney Mather with us all the time. She's our fact person. I like that.
I did a lot of research on this one.
Keep your Wednesdays open. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we are on to director's report.
Okay, a pretty brief director's report tonight. Just reminding everyone that this is the last week of spring curbside yard waste collection. For the past 2 weeks or so, we have had a pretty aggressive, by that I mean daily. We have been updating our social media page to let people know that yard waste or spring curbside is ending this week, that material had to be to the curb by Sunday to guarantee pickup. And we've also been telling people both on the east side and the west side of the city what garbage routes we are in each day so that they can gauge when they can be expecting curbside to be coming through. So one thing I did want to make the committee aware of, we did have some conversation regarding to our annual consumables with regard to hot mix asphalt. And the decision was made by the committee to contract with Brown County for the purchase of our hot mix asphalt. They were the low responsive vendor that came to us. We were advised by Brown County this week, 2 days ago, that when they submitted their pricing to us, they neglected to include a 5% service fee that they charge people. So I did go back and check with the purchasing department. Even with that 5% service fee, they are still the low responsive vendor. And what we had approved was to go with them up to the dollar value that was stipulated in the budget. So there's no extra expense. We might be getting a ton or two less of asphalt for the price, but they are still the low vendor. And the total expenditure, the total outlay on behalf of the city has not changed. So I did want to make you aware of that just as a procedural issue. And then the last item on the agenda or on my report for tonight, it is with extremely mixed feelings that I have to inform you. I received paperwork from Debbie Epping in the Operations Division Sanitation section. After 38 years, Debbie's been with the city. She has announced her intent to retire on June 16th. So I'm more than a little bit jealous of her and her ability to enjoy her retirement. And nice to have somebody who's retiring young enough to be able to enjoy it. But we're certainly going to hate to lose her and all the institutional knowledge she has in running that sanitation section. So we're going to be on the lookout for a new sanitation superintendent soon. And that concludes my director's report.
Thanks, Director. Any questions? Alder Scannell?
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. I've worked with Debbie Haynes Epping. Did I say that quite right?
Yes.
Debbie, she was wonderful. She was very helpful. She was always great to work with. And please extend our gratitude for her years of service and wish her the best.
Yep. We will do that.
And Director Grenier, you sure have lost a lot of good employees to retirement the last few years and transfers and you name it. So, I mean, I know you'll keep things moving along smoothly, but we wish her well. Big loss, of course, to the city.
Yes, it is.
I concur.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion to receive and place on file?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our next scheduled for May 27th, Wednesday, May 27th.
6:15, right? So I'm not late.
Lombardi time. Lombardi time.
You need to log in at 4.
I'm curious if we'll be meeting in person at some point.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
I hope so. I do think the
Supreme Court
motion to adjourn.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw that today. Yeah.
That doesn't mean we have to follow it.
All right.
We'll see. Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll figure it out.
Motion by Scannell to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you later.
Thank you.